Have you ever considered the possibility of hidden secrets beneath your feet? The story we're about to tell will leave you speechless. It's a tale that proves sometimes desperation drives us to unthinkable actions, even digging up the floor to bury someone. A missing family of 4 triggered a horrifying discovery. Tipped off by the report, police in Xichang City, Sichuan Province, were about to confront a nightmare. They weren't just dealing with a killer, this was a serial killer unlike any they'd ever faced. On the morning of October 29, 2006, Mr. Zhang Bin, a resident of Zaiheng Village in Xichang City, Sichuan Province, approached the police department to report his uncle's family, Mr. Zhang Xianning's family, missing. He explained they had been uncontactable for several days. Mr. Zhang and his wife, both over 40, had 2 children, a son, Zhang Jian, and a daughter, Zhang Ju. At the time, Zhang Ju was seeing Wu Zhongtao, so the young man was frequently present at the Zhang family's gatherings. Mr. Zhang Bin reported losing contact with all 5 members of his uncle's family between October 20th and 24th. Prior to this, they exhibited no unusual behavior and were all healthy adults. Their sudden, simultaneous disappearance deeply worried their relatives. Despite a thorough investigation, police found no evidence that any of the 5 people had left Xichang. The mounting suspicion surrounding the case prompted the local police department to form a dedicated investigation team, named Task Force November 17, 2006. As the investigation deepened, the police unearthed an increasing number of suspicious details. All 5 people were presumed murdered. Firstly, despite living in urban areas, none of them had ever purchased property elsewhere, suggesting no intention to relocate. Furthermore, they vanished one after another between October 20th and 24th, taking no clothes or essential items with them. Notably, all 5 phones were inactive during this period. Secondly, Mr. Zhang, a devoted 48-year-old who meticulously cared for his 83-year-old mother, vanished without a word. He wouldn't normally leave without preparing for his mother's well-being, raising a red flag for his relatives. Delving into the victims' relationships, police found no evidence of conflicts, debt, or attempts to evade creditors. Logically, creditors would typically pursue relatives in such cases. However, neither Mr. Zhang Bin nor any other family member reported any threats or extortion attempts following the disappearances. The unusual point was that on October 23rd, Xichang television station, where Mr. Zhang Jian worked, received a text message from his phone informing him of a leave of absence because he had to be hospitalized for appendicitis surgery. However, the police searched the hospitals without finding Jian. Further deepening the mystery, a relative calling Zhang Xianning's phone on October 26th received a shocking answer. An unknown individual, identifying himself as Wang Chang, offered the family a 250,000 yuan loan to relocate to Shanghai for business ventures. However, police investigation revealed this claim to be entirely fabricated. Subsequent calls to Mr. Zhang's number went unanswered. As they pieced together the fragments of information, a grim suspicion hardened in the minds of the police. This was a deliberate and brutal act of murder. The perpetrator, likely someone acquainted with the victims, was actively concealing the truth behind their disappearance. Neither neighbors nor relatives observed any contact between Mr. Zhang's family and outsiders, nor did they hear any suspicious noises. This suggests the perpetrator may have lured them away without raising suspicion. After meticulously examining the social circles of all 5 missing individuals, investigators honed in on a prime suspect, Zhang Jianhua, a close business partner of Mr. Zhang's family. A native of Xichang, Zhang Jianhua, born in 1964, had a past marred by theft and fraud, serving time in a re-education camp. Since September 2006, a business partnership blossomed between him and Xianning, focusing on the illegal resale of cigars for profit. This brought Jianhua into close proximity with Xianning's family. Based on witness statements and investigation details, a disturbing picture emerged. Mr. Xianning vanished on October 20th after returning from a business trip with Jianhua. Mr. Zhang's son followed suit on October 22nd, disappearing after a restaurant visit with Jianhua. 2 days later, the disappearances took a more disturbing turn. Ms. Cui Chengqiang, Mr. Xianning's wife, along with Zhang Ju and her boyfriend, Wu Zhongtao, all vanished after a shared meal with Jianhua at the same restaurant. Notably, call history data placed all 4 of their phones in the vicinity of Jianhua's residence both before and after their disappearance. The disappearances coincided with the locality's preparations for the Winter Tourism Development Conference. Failure to resolve the case before the conference loomed large over the police force, intensifying the pressure. Faced with this urgency, the task force made the decision to apprehend Janhua on the afternoon of November 17th. Janhua remained uncooperative throughout interrogation, refusing to divulge any information. Faced with his obstinate silence, the task force pivoted their strategy. They would gather evidence to build a stronger case, then return to break down his psychological defenses. Armed with a warrant, the investigation team immediately raided Janhua's rented house on the 3rd floor of a Xichang City residence. A meticulous forensic examination uncovered a grim truth: bloodstains hidden beneath floor glue and traces of blood in a secluded corner of the wall, all confirmed to be human. Confronted with this damning evidence, Janhua's psychological defenses crumbled. On the night of November 19th, he confessed to the murders of Shending's family. However, his composure faltered, and he soon retracted his confession. Perhaps he realized the police lacked a watertight case. Though they had blood evidence, they had no bodies, and the crucial link to the victims might have been Janhua's undoing. Despite retracting his confession, police analysis supported Janhua's initial statement. Their primary focus shifted to locating the victims' remains to solidify the case against him. On November 20th, excavation began at the foundation of an apartment Janhua recently purchased near the boarding house. Police initially discovered 6 bodies, including 3 men and 3 women. 2 days later, they unearthed another body at the same location. Following identification procedures, authorities confirmed the 7 bodies belonged to 5 members of Mr. Zhang's family and 2 prostitutes named Chen Yumei and Sang Hongying. Despite the limited physical evidence, the investigation team intensified their interrogation strategy, meticulously observing any shifts in Janhua's emotional state to exploit potential psychological vulnerabilities. Janhua proved to be a tougher adversary than anticipated. Nevertheless, after a prolonged battle of wills, on November 23rd, Janhua cracked and confessed. Janhua's chilling testimony detailed a series of murders spanning late September to October 24th. He admitted to strangling 7 victims with a rope and bludgeoning them with an iron rod in a rented house. Following up on Janhua's confession and identifications, investigators located multiple crime scenes and recovered victim remains across various locations. The methodical crime scenes, Janhua's attempts to conceal evidence, and his disturbing psychological profile all pointed towards a chilling reality. This was not his first act of violence. Relentless interrogation finally yielded results. On December 6th, Janhua confessed to the murders of Su Shiming and Zhang Xia, admitting he had killed them and buried their bodies in late 1998. On December 19th, the task force unearthed skeletal remains, a man and a woman, beneath the floorboards of a dormitory house Janhua rented upon his initial arrival in Xichang back in 1998. Janhua's chilling testimony aligned with the discovery. He claimed to have pooled his savings and borrowed money to invest in a venture with Su Shiming and Zhang Xia, but they allegedly absconded with the entire sum. Consumed by rage, Janhua embarked on a frantic search for Su Shiming and Zhang Xia. He eventually tracked them down in Xichang. There, he devised a cunning plan. Feigning the need for a new drainage pipe, Janhua meticulously dug a deep hole beneath the inn's kitchen. On December 8, 1998, he lured Su Shiming to his residence for dinner. After intentionally incapacitating him with alcohol, Janhua strangled Su to death with a rope and concealed the body in the prepared pit. The following day, he used the same ruthless method to eliminate Zhang Xia. To eradicate any evidence, Janhua hired a worker to replaster the concrete floor, effectively burying the gruesome truth beneath a new surface. Following the disappearance of 2 individuals, their families reported the incident to the police. However, authorities at the time failed to take decisive action, a lapse that would have devastating consequences 8 years later. After a year in Xichang, deeming himself safe from repercussions, Janhua decided to move on. In late 1999, he departed Xichang to pursue business ventures in Guangzhou, Guizhou, Guangxi, and various other locations. This odyssey stretched over 6 years. By the end of 2005, Janhua made his return to Xichang from Guangzhou. Posing as a successful electronics businessman, he attempted to cultivate an image of affluence. However, the reality was far less glamorous. He remained a small-time trader. Janhua's path took a fateful turn in July 2006. He met and fell in love with Chen, who unwittingly introduced him to her cousin, Sang Hongying. Mistakenly believing Jianhua to be a successful businessman, Sang Hongying became the bridge that connected him to Shanning, his future business partner, and Shanning's family. Jianhua's initial claim was that he never intended to kill. However, he later discovered an illicit relationship between Chen and Shanning. This revelation, coupled with his own burgeoning greed after a successful trading period, fueled his desire to eliminate them and seize control of all their assets. As the first step in his gruesome plan, Jianhua hired a worker to demolish the foundation of a bedroom in his newly acquired apartment. He then continued the excavation himself, meticulously digging a deep hole. To avoid attracting suspicion from neighbors, Jianhua shrewdly rented a separate room on the third floor of a nearby building. On September 24th, Jianhua's murderous plan lurched into action. He lured Chen to the rented apartment on the third floor, where he killed her. Then, under the cloak of darkness, he moved her body to the prepared hole in his own apartment. The Shanning family met their tragic ends between October 20th and 24th, each murdered by Jianhua in cold succession. To conceal his crimes, he craftily enlisted a worker to retile the concrete floor, effectively entombing the evidence beneath a new surface. To deflect suspicion, he fabricated a story about the victims embarking on a business trip to Shanghai. The Liangshan People's Court sentenced Jianhua to death for the intentional murders. Rejecting this verdict, Jianhua filed an appeal. His defense attorney, questioning the clarity of motive behind the killings, also petitioned the authorities for a mental evaluation of Jianhua. The attorney argued that the seemingly simplistic nature of Jianhua's motives warranted a psychological assessment. However, upon reviewing the case, the High People's Court determined that Jianhua's motives were lucid and his goals clearly defined. The court noted his calculated pattern of committing subsequent crimes to conceal the murders, along with the methodical and pre-planned nature of each act. Consequently, the request for a mental evaluation was denied. On March 4, 2007, Jianhua received the ultimate penalty, a death sentence. Yet, for the families of his innocent victims, no punishment, no matter how severe, could ever compensate for their tragic loss. This case serves as a chilling reminder of the destructive power of greed. Jianhua's ruthless actions resulted in the loss of innocent lives. What are your thoughts on this story? Share your comments below. Join us next time for another exploration of disturbing criminal cases.